You are right. All the best.
Hello and welcome to Raus IAS. This is the Daily News Simplified for the date 19th February 2024. And for today's discussion, we have picked up these following topics. And first of all, we will start with our mains discussion for the day. So, our first topic is issues in revenue sharing with the states. And as we all know that revenue sharing among the states by the central government, this forms an important part of our syllabus GS paper 1, no GS paper 2 and GS paper 3. In GS paper 2 regarding fiscal federalism and also in GS paper 3 economy regarding mobilization of resources, right? So this would be our first topic for mains discussion. Proceeding further, we will see this particular article which is regarding the potential of Maldives Islands. Sorry, the potential of Lakshadweep. And now we all know that this Lakshadweep, the potential of Lakshadweep is important for our GS paper 1 geography under the allocation or distribution of resources, right? And the significance and Lakshadweep is also important regarding our GS paper 2, that is international relations and internal security in GS paper 3. Now proceeding further, we will see a summary of a news article which appeared on The Hindu and which is regarding recalibrating merit in the age of artificial intelligence. As we all know that artificial intelligence is a disruptive technology and it has its domain but in multiple fields. And in this particular article, the author has tried to explain the domain of author has tried to correlate the domain of artificial intelligence with society and social mobility, right? We will be going to see this article as a form of summary. And then we will solve 3 MCQs regarding which will be helpful for your prelims examination, right? And these are regarding Geosynchronous Satellite Launch Vehicle, GSLV. And the second topic is regarding Bubonic Plague. And the third topic is regarding carbon nanotubes. So these 3 are important for your science and syllabus, science and technology syllabus, right? Now, let's start our discussion. Now, before starting it, if you like our video, give us a thumbs up and feel free to comment if you have any questions to ask. And this is an information regarding the ongoing or the upcoming foundation course for civil services examination 2025-26, and these are the batches and timeline of these batches is given below. Now let's start our discussion with the first mains article for the day. It is inspired by this news article which appeared on the page number 3 of the Hindu Business Line. And this article says that are states justified in opposing revenue sharing model? Now for this, we should understand the fact that, see, the states in India, typically, there is a center pool of divisible taxes and from that pool of divisible taxes, the state gets their tax devolution. And so states have to make certain expenditures, we all know, say capital expenditure, revenue expenditure. Further, states have to spend in form of welfare schemes, right? For all these, state needs finances and those finances come to states via taxes, right? But as we all know that the tax share recently, since few years, the tax base with the states have been narrowing, particularly with the onset of GST and certain other factors, which we will be discussing in this article. And certain states of the country, particularly the southern Indian states, they have been opposing this revenue sharing model or this revenue sharing formula which has been devised by the Finance Commission. They are demanding a certain kind of equity in this revenue sharing model, right? So we are going to see all these issues in this article. Now, this article is important for us for our GS paper 3 and under the syllabus head Indian economy and issues relating to planning, mobilization of resources, growth, development and employment. Now, let's start this article. As we all know that Article 280 of Indian Constitution, it deals with the establishment of Finance Commission. Finance Commission is established every 5 years in the country, right? And the last Finance Commission was established in the year 2017 and its recommendations are for the period financial year 2021 to the financial year 2026. For this, the period of 5 years. And Now see, the primary purpose of this finance commission is to give recommendations to the central government regarding how the central government is going to share the tax proceeds from the divisible pool of tax revenue with the central government. Now see, this is the divisible pool of taxes with the central government, and finance commission gives certain recommendations regarding how these tax proceeds are going to be shared with states. Now, according to the NK Singh committee or the 15th finance commission, presently 41% of this divisible pool of taxes with the central government is to be shared with the states, and this is known as vertical devolution of taxes, right? Out of this total pool, 41% is to be shared with states, 28 states of the country. And from this 41%, there will be devolution to the 28 states of the country. And this devolution is known as horizontal devolution. Now, there is also particular criteria, or there is a weightage given. There is a criteria based on which this devolution is given to the states, or these particular state in the country, they are given net proceeds. Now let's quickly see that what is this criterion. Now the first criteria which have been given the utmost importance, or the 45% weightage, is the income distance criterion. Now what is income distance criterion? Now as per this criterion, say this criteria is based on GSDP, gross state domestic product. That is, say if there are 3 states in the country, say state 1, state 2 and state 3, say state 1 has the highest GSDP and state 3 has the lowest GSDP, right? So what will happen? Depending on the distance of these states from state 1, and this GSDP, gross state domestic product, is averaged for the period of 3 years. So depending on this state, depending on this distance, income criteria, state 3 is at more distance, right? It is furthest away from state 1, hence the maximum allocation will be given to state 3. So this is income distance. Second criteria is regarding area. This simply means that any state with large geographical extent is going to get largest share in the tax devolution, right? Third criteria is regarding population. That is, greater the population of any state, greater is the devolution of the share in the taxes that state is going to get. Now see, this criteria, this is problematic to some states in the country, particularly to the southern Indian states. Why? That is because these states have done a lot of efforts in stabilizing the population of the country. Now, certain states of the country, certain northern Indian states, they are getting more share in the tax revenue simply because of their large population. So, in one sense, it discriminates these southern Indian states who have done a lot in order to stabilize their population, right? So, in order to compensate it a bit, there is another criterion which is demographic performance. Now, this means that any state which has done a lot efforts in stabilizing the population or in lowering the total fertility rate, TFR, then that state is going to get more share of taxes, right? Other criteria is regarding forest and ecology. This means that any state which has enormous or which has most dense coverage of forest is going to get more share of tax revenue, right? Finally, there is another criteria which is tax and fiscal efforts. This is to reward the states who have greater financial discipline. This means that any state which has more per capita tax collection, that is per capita tax collection of any state whichever state is higher is going to get more tax revenue. One point to note is that any state which is getting the highest tax collection is not going to get this percent. Rather, the state which is more efficient in collection of tax, depending on its population, right, is going to get more weightage in tax collection. So this is the criterion of devolution of taxes, the horizontal criterion. Now let's see what are the issues regarding this criterion. The first issue is the problem with this income distance. Now because of this income distance, the poorest state of the country, they are getting more tax benefits, but this in turn has benefited this North Indian states, but these have discriminated to the Southern Indian states. They feel that they have been discriminated, and there is a data to support this, which we will be seeing. The second issue is weight given to the area. Now, as in the chart, we saw that presently the weightage to area, the geographical extent is 15%, but this has been doubled from 7.5% recommendations by 11th Finance Commission to 15% now. So this means that more tax is going to the states with larger areas. So this may hamper the interest of states which are having lesser geographical area. Similar thing happens when the weightage for population in the devolution formula has been increased. Earlier, by the recommendations of 11th Finance Commission, the weightage was 10%, but now the weightage has been increased to 15%. Now, as we already discussed, that this means that the states which are having higher population, they are going to get more tax shares. So this is a matter of concern to the states who have done a lot in order to stabilize their population. So other thing is demographic performance, which we already saw, that in order to incentivize say Southern Indian states who have reduced their total fertility rate, they were given demographic performance. But if we see this calculation, this 12.5% allocation calculation, this is being done with the reference point of the census of 1971. Now, if we see in the year 1971, if we see the total fertility rate of various states, say North Indian states and Southern Indian states, the difference or the distinction in TFR might not be that visible or that distinct as it is being presently. So this inclusion of this cutoff date of 1951, this formulas designed, it does not reflect the recent demographic performances of the Southern Indian states. So there is a need to revise the 1971 cutoff date, right? Finally, the tax and financial efforts, which were to incentivize states with greater financial discipline. Now, if we see its ratio, presently its weightage is 2.5%. But there is a chart. If we see this, if we see this chart, it shows that how these weightages have changed in the devolution formula, and it's a comparative analysis of these weightages from 11th Finance Commission to 15th Finance Commission. So in this chart, we will see that earlier the weightage for tax and fiscal efforts was much higher at 17.5%. But now this weightage have been significantly reduced at 2.5%. So this is a problematic issue. Now, what are the consequences of it? The consequences are that there is a disproportionate devolution in the tax basis. Now, this can be supported by this particular diagram, which we see that this diagram shows that if rupees 1 comes to the central pool of taxes, then rupees 1 is coming, and out of this rupees 1, there are certain states like Maharashtra, they are only getting 8 paisa. Haryana is getting 0.4 paisa. But on the end, see the Tamil Nadu, Telangana, these are states, they are getting just 0.47 paisa, and these figures are given here. But there are certain states in the country, say Bihar, Uttar Pradesh, they are getting 7 rupees. So there is a huge disparity there is a huge disparity against these particular states, right? And this is the particular concern. This is the major concerns why these states are protesting in order to bring some kind of parity in this devolution of taxes, right? And this has been complicated further by the issue that with the onset of GST, now states, they are not able to increase taxes on certain goods and services. Earlier, if any state want to increase its tax revenue, the state could increase the taxes in any goods and services. But after the rollout of GST, there is a GST council which decides the rate of taxes on goods and services, right? So these states, they are not even able to increase these taxes, right? And this also tells for the shortfall of capital with states. So having seen this issue, what can be the way forward in this regard? The way forward says that certain states of the country which are doing good in terms of financial performance, in terms of financial discipline, and or maybe some states which are more prone to disasters. So such states can be given some kind of autonomy, some kind of taxation autonomy, right? And in order that they have certain kind of autonomy to administer or to levy taxes on goods and services to increase their tax base. The other solution could be that the weightage of demographic performance, it can be raised to 15 to 20%. And as we saw that this weightage of demographic performance, it is presently based on the census of 1971 and which can be revised to the census of 2011 or to other census which comes in future. Further, the weightage given to income distance must be reduced such that the southern Indian state, it may help these states which have higher per capita income, right? Further, what can be done? There can be rationalization of the share of cess and surcharges in the gross tax revenue of the center. This means that, see, in the gross tax revenue, this is the gross tax revenue with central government. Central government gets taxes here, cess and surcharges. But central government is only mandated to share taxes with state government. Central government is not mandated to share cess and surcharges with the state government. Now in the recent year, what central government has done that the ratio of cess and surcharge in this gross tax revenue is increasing, but the ratio of this tax is decreasing, or we can say that the tax base of central government is narrowing down. And because of which, if the tax base of central government narrows down, this ultimately means that the state governments are also getting less amount of money or less pool of money to be shared from, right? So, and this is primarily because of increase in the cess and surcharges. So there should be rationalization in the share of cess and surcharges in the gross tax revenue of the central government. Now with this, let's proceed to our second article of the day, which is regarding Lakshadweep's maritime potential. As we all know that regarding the India and Maldives face-off, Lakshadweep has been in news recently, has been in news lately. And so let's first see the location of Lakshadweep. Lakshadweep is an archipelago of 36 islands in the Arabian Sea. In this map, we can see this is the southern coast of India, and this is the location of Lakshadweep, which is an archipelago of 36 islands. Out of this 36 islands, 10 islands are inhabited. Primarily, Lakshadweep can be divided into three categories of islands. One is Amindivi Island, another is Lakshadweep Island or Lakshadweep Islands also, and the other category is Minicoy Island. So you can remember that Amindivi Islands, they form the northernmost tip of Lakshadweep archipelago, and Minicoy Islands, they form the southernmost tip of the Lakshadweep island. An important fact about these islands is that there is an 8-degree channel which separates Minicoy or the southernmost tip of Lakshadweep Islands from Maldives, and they are separated by the 8-degree channel, right? And if we see the location of Lakshadweep is strategically placed in the Arabian Sea, and these are the major trade lines which are passing through Lakshadweep and also through Maldives, right? Now, seeing its strategic location in the Arabian Sea, and let's understand that what is the enormous potential which Lakshadweep can offer. The first potential is economic potential. As we all know that Lakshadweep can be hub to sustainable tourism because of its pristine beauty, beaches, corals, atolls, backwaters, among others, right? So it has enormous tourism potential at par with Maldives. And now the fisheries sector. Lakshadweep has enormous, ample fisheries resources, right? And if we talk about agriculture sector, the primary agricultural crop which is grown here is palm or is coconut or coir, or the presence of coir industries. And further, the crops here can be diversified by growing any other crops also. And owing to the vast coast of Lakshadweep and owing to its proximity to the tropic of tropic of Capricorn, right? So because of its tropical location, Lakshadweep has enormous potential for solar energy, and it has potential for ocean and geothermal energy. It has potential for wind energy, right? So this is the economic potential which Lakshadweep can offer. Further, if we see the strategic position of Lakshadweep in the Arabian Sea, we can see that Lakshadweep is located near the sea line, near these trade lines of communication. So it can act as a major logistic hub. Also, if we see that there are various islands in Lakshadweep which are close to Mangalore port, and they are also close to Cochin port, and hence it can act as a logistics hub, right? Another thing is, because of its important strategic location in Arabian Sea, it can act as a naval outpost where the naval ships or the cargo ships of various countries, or say friendly countries like Quad, they can station here. In these islands, there can be many naval air bases can be located here, right? And many naval exercises can be conducted from these islands. So it has a relevance in defense sector. Also, if we talk about internal security, as we all know that due to the proximity of Lakshadweep to the international trade lines, because of which it can offer a key point to check human trafficking, smuggling of goods, and to prevent any piracy attempts in the Arabian Sea, right? And because of its strategic position, it can be a key, it can play an important role in promoting diplomacy with West Asia. Further, because owing to the presence of, owing to its location, there can be various projects which can be started in Lakshadweep in the field of marine research, in the field of climate change, in the field of exploration of minerals in the Arabian Sea, for example, say polymetallic nodules, and presence of other minerals in the Indian Ocean or in the Arabian Sea can be explored, right? So this is the potential which Lakshadweep can offer. But having said that, we should keep in mind the sensitive ecology of Lakshadweep, because it's primarily made of atolls, right? So the development of infrastructure in this island should be such that the development is sustainable. It does not pollute the marine resources, Plus, the development does not hamper the interest of the indigenous population which resides in Lakshadweep. That is balancing development with the needs of indigenous population and also with the needs of climate change, right? So this is all for this article. Now let's move on to the summary of this article which appeared on page number 6 of the Hindu. Now this article talks about recalibrating merit in the age of artificial intelligence. Now see, there are two keywords here. The first keyword is meritocracy. Another thing is that AI, the disruptive technology of artificial intelligence, and how it can impact social mobility, right? Now, see, first of all, what is meritocracy? Meritocracy is a social system where any person gets any status, gets any rank, or say employment, right? Which is also known as reward. So any person gets any employment reward depending upon his intellect, depending upon his efforts and his hard work, right? So in the sphere of meritocracy, there is no connection, or it is devoid of wealth or social status or background of that person. That is, the person gains these rewards solely because of his intellect and not because of its social status or economic background. This is meritocracy. You must have heard about this term in the debate between meritocracy and reservation. Oftentimes, there is a debate between the need for meritocracy and why reservation should be given or should it be given or not. Okay. So there are certain criticism. There have been certain thinkers who have criticized this meritocracy. So the name of these thinkers mentioned here are not important for you, but you must understand the concept that, see, these are thinkers who have criticized the merit-based system. These thinkers have said that suppose in any country there is a system where the class of any person or his social mobility, that is how he is raising in his employment, in his society, right? And his social mobility, if it is solely determined by his intelligence, then how is it going to be done? If the class of any person is going to be determined solely because of his intelligence, this is going to be done by the help of certain standardized tests or certain educational backgrounds, right? But the problem here is that who will decide that what should be the merit of those educational standards or of those educational tests? That who will define the merit, or how is the intelligence of any person going to be measured, right? So these are the concepts. Now the second thinker says that meritocracy can bring social mobility, but he says that it will become hereditary. That is, the privileges which a person has earned through meritocracy, it may be passed down through generation, and it will foster new inequalities in the society, as the person who is not considered meritorious in any particular society may not be able to assess these rewards, right? And another thinker says that meritocracy fosters a sense of entitlement among the person who has been selected and a sense of resentment among the person who has left behind, right? So now how is this debate related to artificial intelligence? Now this is because, as we all know, that artificial intelligence is a disruptive technology that is mimicking human intelligence, right? And now see, already the topic of merit is of debate. And now, because of this advent of these technology, there is another issue of how to define merit in the digital age. Already how to define merit was a tough task. So, but how to define merit in digital age is more troublesome. So the arguments which are present in this article say that, now see, there were traditional metrics of merit. There were traditional metrics of examination, right? Say merit, educational qualifications. So these were the traditional metrics of merit. But with the advent of AI, they have become less relevant. How so? Now, for example, earlier there was a person who you could judge depending upon whether he passed any examination or he failed on that, right? So this was a criteria of merit. But now, with the help of artificial intelligence tools, any person who may not be considered meritorious, if he has access to these AI tools and if he knows how to use these AI tools, this particular person may surpass the first person who is considered meritorious but has no access to AI tools, but who doesn't know how to use AI tools, right? So this is creating a sense of, this is creating a sense of inequality, right? Or it is disrupting the society in this sense, right? So the primary issue here is the disruption which is going to be caused by the advent of AI and also the viable solutions for it. Another thing is that now see, AI is going to replace many jobs. Earlier it was thought that AI will only replace low skill jobs or medium skill jobs. But now as we have seen that AI is developing and it is even displacing the high skilled jobs, right? So there is the issue that this polarization or uh, this AI, this advent of AI will further enhance the socio-economic inequalities which are already present in the society, right? Another thing is that another issues are, or one of the most important issues is that now see, AI, it works on data and algorithm, but most of our data are captured or is collected by certain technical giants, right? So they have database of our data of our data, and now what they can do in future, there could be a digital hegemony where these technological giant, they can create certain kind of meritocracy, and this can be known as digital meritocracy, right? So they can set the standards for what would constitute merit in digital age, and this can particularly hamper smaller players. And further, there are also issues like data biases and with the opaque nature of AI algorithm, right? Now these are the issues. What can be way forward here? The way forward here can be that there should be rethinking of how merit is being determined in this age of technology, and this aspect of AI disrupting merit should also be included, right? Now let's move on to our prelims questions for the day. The first question is inspired by this news article which appeared on the page number 11 of Indian Express. Now this news article says that why GSLV rocket is called naughty boy, right? Now for this, let's understand GSLV, or let's understand the launch vehicles present in India. Now if we see in this particular image, this is PSLV, and this is known, PSLV is referred to as workhorse of ISRO, and PSLV is the third generation rocket launcher in the country, right? You should know some few facts regarding the three important rocket launchers with ISRO. Presently, the three important rocket launchers with ISRO are PSLV, which is Polar Satellite Launch Vehicle, GSLV Mark III, which is Geosynchronous Satellite Launch Vehicle, Mark II, or this is also known as GSLV only. And the third or the advanced version of GSLV Mark II is GSLV Mark III. And this is also known as Launch Vehicle Mark III, right? Apart from this, presently ISRO has also developed a small satellite launch vehicle. So now let's do a comparative analysis between PSLV, GSLV Mark II and Launch Vehicle Mark III or GSLV Mark III. Now see, this PSLV is the most reliant rocket launcher of ISRO, and it has 4 stages. 4 stages. The first stage is a solid stage, second is a liquid stage, and it is the first rocket launcher of India to have a liquid stage. And this is also known as Vikas engine, having a liquid propellant. The third stage is again a solid state, and the fourth stage is a liquid stage. And PSLV is capable of launching in various orbits like polar orbits, geosynchronous transfer orbits, and the polar orbits and low Earth orbits. But when we need to transfer any satellite or payload from geosynchronous transfer orbit to geosynchronous orbits, in that particular time we need a fuel with higher efficiency. Now also we needed a launch vehicle which had capacity or which had a greater payload capacity. For it, we India ISRO developed GSLV Mark II. Now GSLV has 3 stages. The first stage is a solid stage, solid fuel stage. Second is a liquid fuel stage, and third is a cryogenic fuel stage, which uses liquid hydrogen and liquid oxygen. But this GSLV is the cryogenic rocket engine, means it uses a third stage with cryogenic fuel. But see, this technology in GSLV Mark II, this has been reverse engineered from the technology behind Russia. Earlier, India was going to procure this cryogenic technology from Russia, but due to the pressure of USA in the past, what happened that Russia did not do technology transfer for this cryogenic technology for GSLV Mark II. So what India did, we had certain rockets and we did reverse engineer. Now, the problem or the context of this news article is that why GSLV is called naughty boy. And GSLV, as I already told you, GSLV also means GSLV Mark II. And Mark III is known as LVM. So whenever you see GSLV, you may refer to as GSLV Mark II. Now see, what are the problems with GSLV Mark II? Since it has the rocket engine technology, which is reverse engineered from Russia, there are certain complications in this cryogenic fuel stage, right? And because of which, if we see the stats that if we do a comparative analysis of PSLV, GSLV and LVM3, out of the 60 commercial launches of PSLV, only 2 are failures. And if we talk about launch vehicle Mark III, which is GSLV Mark III, right? This is also a stage 3 and it also uses a cryogenic fuel. But the important difference here is that GSLV Mark III is indigenously developed by ISRO. So it also uses cryogenic fuel, but this Mark III is indigenously developed by ISRO. And now, out of 60 launches, only 2 failures for PSLV, and out of 15 launches for GSLV, there have been 4 failures till date. And for this LVM, which is the most advanced rocket launcher, out of its 7 launches, we have no failures, right? So this is what this article tells about. And these are the important facts which you should know. And okay, now based on this information, let us solve this practice question. And this topic is important for you under the subsection Space, Technology and Astronomy. As in the year 2018 also, we could see that a question has been asked on Indian Regional Navigation Satellite System. Now let's quickly solve this question, which says that consider the following statements with reference to Geosynchronous Satellite Launch Vehicle GSLV Mark II. Okay. GSLV Mark II is a heavy lift launch vehicle of ISRO capable of launching 4000 kg spacecraft to geosynchronous transfer orbit. Now, this statement is incorrect. Why so? This is because GSLV Mark II is capable of launching satellites of the weight up to 2200 kgs, right? 2200 kgs. And this GSLV Mark III, which is the advanced version, this is capable of launching payload up to 4000 kg, right? So this statement is incorrect as its present capacity is around or more than 2200 kgs. And the second statement says that GSLV Mark II uses an entirely Indian design cryogenic upper stage engine for its final stage. Now, this is also an incorrect statement. Why so? Because this technology, this cryogenic technology for GSLV Mark II is not entirely Indian, but it is inspired or it is reverse engineered Russian technology, right? But the technology for LVM3, right? This is indigenous, right? So as the statement asked, which of the statement given above is or are correct? Our answer would be neither one nor two. Now let's move on to our second MCQ, which is regarding the outbreak of bubonic plague in US. So let's see what is bubonic plague. So bubonic plague, which was known as Black Death in 14th century Europe. This is a zoonotic disease which is caused by a bacterium, which is Yersinia pestis. This is the bacteria which caused this bubonic plague. And this bacteria is usually found in small mammals, small animals, and their fleas. What are fleas? Fleas are small blood-sucking pest, right? And what is how is the transmission of this plague happens? The transmission happens by the bite of infected vector fleas. That is, the blood-sucking these parasites because of bite of these vector fleas. Another mode of transmission is unprotected contact with infectious bodily fluids or contaminated materials. Like, for example, there is a rodent. If it is infected and if this rodent bites human, in that case also there can be chance that this disease is transmitted. As we already saw that this is a zoonotic disease. Now, let's see that this bubonic plague or this simply plague, this has three stages. First of which is bubonic plague. Basically, it is inflammation in the lymph nodes. The lymph nodes are inflamed. And what are lymph nodes? Lymph nodes, these are the part of lymphatic system in humans. And what is lymphatic system? This is a part of immune system, right? And so there is an inflammation in this lymph nodes. And the symptoms are mentioned here, which primarily constitute of fever, headache, weaknesses, right? And see, this is the first stage of plague, which is bubonic plague. Other stage is septicemic plague. In this stage, after this bubonic plague is left untreated, it may worsen into septicemic plague, which means that now this bacterium, this has entered the bloodstream. And the third stage or the most fatal stage of this plague is pneumonic plague. And in this stage, this bacterium, this enters the lungs of any person. And pneumonic plague is the most fatal. And one important fact about pneumonic plague is that the mode of transmission of pneumonic plague is somewhat similar to COVID-19. That is, this can be also spread via human to human transfer via air droplets, right? And this human to human transfer via droplets can only be possible in the case of pneumonic plague, right? So these are some important facts. Let us solve the question regarding it, as this theme is important for our UPSC Science and Technology Diseases section. Now this question asks, which reference to the plague consider the following statements. Statement 1. Plague is a zoonotic disease caused by bacteria Yersinia pestis. It's the correct answer, correct statement. Second statement, septicemic plague occurs when the bacteria enters the bloodstream. This is also a correct statement. Third statement, pneumonic plague is the only form of plague that can be spread from person to person by inhaling infectious droplets. Now, this is also a correct statement. Now, the answer would be all three of the above statements are correct, right? Now, let's move on to our final MCQ for the day. And this is regarding that Indian researchers have developed a method to develop sustainable carbon nanotubes. So Indian researchers have devised a method with the help of which they can develop sustainable carbon nanotubes. Now let's understand carbon nanotubes. For it, let's understand graphene. Now, you know what's graphene? Graphene is the arrangement of, it is the smallest layer of carbon atoms. These are the single carbon atoms which are arranged in a hexagonal lattice. So if carbon atoms are arranged, if there is a single layer of carbon atoms, this is known as graphene, right? And if this graphene is rolled up, this makes carbon nanotube. And if there are multiple sheets of graphene stacked together, they are known as graphite. And if this graphite is rolled up, this is known as multi-walled carbon nanotube. And since uh, since time is running out, I would advise you to look at the applications of carbon nanotubes, as this is the important theme which UPSC even asked in the year 2020. And owing to its important properties like the enormous strength of graphene and its enormous electrical conductivity and various lightweight nature and various other properties, carbon nanotubes and graphene, they have their multiple applications in various fields, including biology and research, right? So now let's see that how carbon nanotubes was formed earlier. So earlier, it was formed using a method which required heating any gas, any carbon rich gas, like this is methane, and heating this carbon rich gas at the temperatures up to 1000 degrees centigrade. And in this, some catalysts were used like iron, nickel, cobalt, right? And by heating this carbon rich gas in a catalyst, these carbons, these carbons broke down and they deposited over a substrate, which was generally a glass. So these carbon atoms, they broke down from this methane after enormous heating, and they deposited on a substrate, and hence they formed carbon nanotube or sheets of graphene, and which could be made into carbon nanotubes. But see, there were problem in this process. What were some problems? First problem was that this process was not energy efficient, as it used 1000 degree. The gas had to be heated to 1000 degree centigrade. Another thing was that there was the use of some catalyst like iron, nickel, cobalt. And if these catalysts, because of the presence of these catalysts, the carbon nanotubes formed were not biocompatible. Biocompatible means, say, if these carbon nanotubes are used in medical implants, they are used in medical implants. So this could be toxic to the human body, right? So they were not biocompatible because of presence of these catalysts, right? So now a more efficient method have been devised, and this method is known as plasma enhanced chemical vapor deposition technique. So in this technique requires heating these gases only till the temperature of 750 degrees Celsius, and also these catalysts which were used here, they are not to be used. These catalysts are not used here. And another thing is that this process, this operates at the atmospheric pressure only, right? And because of all these factors, it is more cost efficient, and this is also biocompatible as it does not uses any catalyst, right? Now, based on this, let's solve this practice question which says that consider the following statement with reference to carbon nanotubes. Statement 1. Plasma enhanced chemical vapor deposition technique used in synthesizing carbon nanotubes requires cobalt as a catalyst. Now, this is an incorrect statement, as this method does not require any catalyst. Another statement says synthesizing carbon nanotube using plasma enhanced chemical vapor deposition technique is executed under atmospheric pressure. Now, this is a correct statement. Now, as the question asks, which of the statement given above is correct? Our correct answer would be option B, 2 only. So this is the end of the discussion. If you have any doubts, you can ask us in the comment section. Thank you.